I hope she's not hanging with any girl up bad news.
Well, you know, they just said,
That already started going on.
I know, well. I'll collect all that again. Jeremy getting his license, well, they said this one, he goes for his road.
You got one? Yeah.
Good evening, this is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Victory Gardens, held on May 14, 2019. Call this meeting to order and declare a quorum present. Would everybody please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag of our country, please remain standing for the moment of silence for our military. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. be seated. This meeting has been advertised in one newspaper, the Daily Record, in compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Attendance?
Councilwoman Cheatham. Councilman Glass.
Here.
Councilwoman Hedgepath. Councilwoman White. Here. Councilman Lorenzo. Councilwoman Garcia Montez.
Present.
Motion to accept the minutes of April 23rd, 2019.
So motion to accept the minutes from April 23rd, 2019 as received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence? Okay, yes. I'd like to go out of the regular business, so just Leon can go over the firehouse. We'll work on that firehouse.
Motion to go out of regular business for Leon Hall Associates or whatever it's called. Densler Associates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I was asked to come here to sit in front of the council at Debbie's request. It's my understanding that you may have some questions regarding the scope and the nature of the project. This is an ADA compliant concrete sidewalk from the door of the meeting room into the firehouse out to the concrete sidewalk along Washington Avenue. The sidewalk is a total length of 62 feet and it's 5 feet wide.
Could you pull the microphone?
And before you start on all of that, you're talking about sidewalk. Where we started from was handicap accessibility to the firehouse. Why couldn't that been done? You know, without the sidewalk.
Because we looked at front door into the meeting room, there's a 16-inch drop right there. And in order to meet ADA grade requirements, you just can't get into the building with a 16-inch drop. The first requirement is when you come out of the door, the first 6 to 8 feet has to be at 2%. So someone in a wheelchair, when they approach the door, has the ability to stop the wheelchair at 2%, they won't roll. They'll be able to pull the door open for themselves or someone else will help them. Then after that, the rest of the route, from 8 feet out to the building, out to the one, an ADA access, and that's how it's defined in here's the federal statute, the ADA federal statute, and that route, the access route, has a maximum slope of 5%. So when you couple those two slope requirements together, there's no way to quickly drop this sidewalk down to the driveway asphalt and tie into the asphalt. And I looked at that more in detail to see if I could maybe come out 25 or 30 feet and tie into the asphalt. But the asphalt from roughly midpoint between the firehouse and the sidewalk up to the sidewalk is about 7 to 8%, and it wouldn't comply with the ADA access route slope anyways. So I couldn't do it even if the grades were. That's what the bottom line here is. The access route grade of 5% maximum and the 2% maximum grade just outside the door.
And you can't do it in the back either.
You can't do it in the back. If you go in the back, you look at both doors, you'll see a very, very steep ramp. Now, if I come out of those doors at 2%, I will be halfway across that parking lot with my ramp, which means I would have to basically explode that entire parking lot and bring it up about 6 inches. And to be honest with you, it's just not worth the money. And you spend several tens of thousands of dollars doing that. So this was the best place to get someone in a wheelchair, especially directly into the meeting room, where I assume that's where they would be anyways.
Now, can I ask a stupid question? We'll have to come from the back and around. The slope of the driveway itself doesn't matter?
That wasn't really within the scope of the project.
Okay.
I think that driveway along the side of the firehouse, I think it is 5% or less.
Okay.
That's why, when I considered this, the alternative would be to totally reconstruct the parking lot, or to have them run up the driveway. It's not ideal, but again, I believe the slopes comply with ADA.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a balancing act between cost and ADA.
Thank you. Go with the sidewalk.
Also too, when I presented this to community development for the grant, request back in March of 2017, they were very specific in terms of the scope of work. They questioned me that the sidewalk was gonna come out the front door.
That was the grant for handicap accessibility or for sidewalks?
Well, it's both.
Okay, cause I
The grant
know we
applica-
have a grant for handicap accessibility, but now we're adding in sidewalk.
Well, this is an ADA accessible sidewalk. That was the name of the project that I presented to the community development. ADA accessible firehouse sidewalk.
So did we get that grant?
You got the grant for $9,500.
That was for handicap accessibility, right? Not for sidewalk.
Well, the sidewalk is the type.
Which you're gonna have to put in, cause that's what you had sent to them.
That's what I presented.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
other words,
Thank you.
in order to get ADA compliance in the building, this is the proposal to achieve that goal.
How much would a lift cost, wheelchair lift?
I don't know. I would have to price that out. Don't know the answer to that. But again, you can't come down the driveway, because the driveway in front of the door.
Because there's a slope there.
Because the slope is in excess of 5%.
But there's no slope over by the recreation area, they're saying, coming up here. The driveway.
The driveway, in other words, if you wanted to eliminate the sidewalk, have people come down the paved driveway on the lane that's closest to the meeting room,
Right.
the first 30 feet of that exceeds 5% slope.
That's 8%.
It's not even one.
But the driveway next to the building is okay, you're saying?
Well, I didn't shoot it, I don't know that for a fact,
Okay.
but when I look at that, I compare it to the driveways in front of the garage
Yeah,
door,
they're steep.
it's much less steep.
Okay, you can go back to talking about the sidewalks now.
Okay. Well, again, it's just a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk.
And it's going from where to where?
It's going from the door that goes into the meeting room, all the way
In
out
the
to
back or in the front?
in the front. And it comes all the way out to the concrete sidewalk right along Washington Avenue.
So it's straight, going straight.
It's not straight, it's got a curvilinear alignment to it, and the reason why I had to drop down, below the firehouse driveways is to meet that 5% maximum grade. In other words, it's about 9 or 10 feet below the driveway. That's where the proposed sidewalk ties into the existing sidewalk in Washington Avenue. And again, you know, once I defined the scope of work in front of the community development, and they decided to give you a grant, amount of $9,500, I'm kind of tied into that scope of work that I presented.
Well, the scope of work you presented wasn't for the handicap grant that we had gotten originally. Like, you had sent in for, about the sidewalks and stuff. We were granted for handicap accessibility community development, right? That was a $9,500 grant that
And that
we
was,
received. But that had nothing to do
the
with the
doors.
sidewalk.
It was for, redoing the door so that it would be accessible.
Handicap accessible, that's what we
Right.
were looking for, but we didn't know
That's what
nothing
the
about
first one was
sidewalks.
for.
He turned around and, I guess put in about the sidewalks and everything, because it couldn't be done, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes, because right now, the current firehouse, you cannot get someone in a wheelchair into that building. It's
I know,
impossible.
I know, well, it's not impossible, but
Right.
it's not acceptable.
Right, it doesn't comply, it's not even close.
Tara, can you explain to him what we were talking about with, changing it the other way around?
In the back or
Yeah,
in the front?
In the front, right? So we wouldn't have to do the,
The sidewalk, yeah, that's what he's saying, is that because the grass is a little higher than the driveway, the drop, that's what he's saying, is that the drop is in excess of what's allowed.
So it couldn't be
So
done.
he couldn't turn it this way and make it down to the driveway, correct?
Right.
It would be too much of a dip and it would not be approved.
I could achieve ADA compliant grades running the sidewalk immediately adjacent to the paved driveway. And at some point, hit the grade and comply, but I wouldn't be all the way out to the sidewalk. You still have to go up about 30 feet of the existing driveway closest to Washington Avenue, and that's in excess of 5%. And that's not ADA compliant access into your firehouse. That's why the sidewalk was carried all the way out to the sidewalk on Washington Avenue.
And 5 feet, is 5 feet, is that code or whatever?
5 feet is something, I've been putting in my plans and specs.
Okay.
The absolute minimum is 4 feet, but I like to make it comfortable, someone in a wheelchair.
Right.
Also too, the last 30 feet as you approach the building, there's a railing on the sidewalk.
Right.
Because of drop off, so, another reason to make it about a foot wider. to accommodate the railing. And again, I don't want to make it, I want it to be comfortable for someone
Right.
or a walker.
And you wouldn't be able to like have them level out the grass area so that the drop wouldn't be as significant?
Well, it's the function of, when you look at that front door, there's two steps there to get down to the asphalt driveway. Those two steps, from the slab of the building, where you walk into the meeting room, down to that pavement of the driveway, 60-inch drop. And that's what's creating this issue. How do I make up that 60-inch drop and comply with the ADA grade requirements? And that's what's pushed the sidewalk all the way up to Washington Avenue, just based on the physical nature of the site. So in terms of the contract, we took bids, I forget what the date was, and the low bidder was $22,000. Your grant amount is $9,500. So if the borough wants to proceed with the project, you would have to pay the balance of $12,500. Now, that bid amount of $22,000 was much, much higher than I expected. So you have three choices. You can award the contract as is, as bid. You can reject all bids and just basically cancel the project. Or you can authorize me to rebid the project in hopes of getting lower bid amounts. But in my experience, I've rebid maybe 6 or 7 projects over the last 30 years, and the bid amounts do not really come in any lower. I mean, the concrete is the concrete work, so. It really comes down to is, are you comfortable spending $12,500 for the sidewalk? Or if you think that's too much, then you just don't award the contract.
So we have to make it ADA compliant.
And if you don't pursue this now with the ADA grant, and you decide in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years to do this, and you do it on your own, then you know you're gonna put out $25,000 out of your pocket. So, if you don't do it now, with the community on the grant, involved, it'll cost you more, obviously.
Does anybody in the, audience have anything to say about this?
So I was gonna open it up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, I'd like to make a motion.
I was gonna open it up. Any other questions, council?
No.
Okay, I have a motion to open this portion of the meeting to the public on this one issue.
Motion open the meeting to public on this one issue only.
Now, got a second?
Yes, that's it.
All in favor?
Janelle, 15 Franklin Road. Wanted to ask, how did we get the community development to determine $9,500 was the allotted amount? I mean, they had to have some sort of scope of work originally to know how they came up with that dollar amount.
Yeah, that was, there's actually a page on the grant application, you request the amount of funds that you want for the project.
Okay, and you typically do that with your cost estimate, which was, from my understanding, going way back when we discussed it, I don't believe that there was a discussion of a sidewalk going from the front of the building all the way up to Washington Avenue.
I don't know what was discussed at the council level.
There was no sidewalk discussed at all. We were
Right, well,
trying to
that's what I'm
get
saying.
handicap accessibility.
So if you applied for the grant, and you were estimating approximately around $9,500, that's what was awarded based on what was discussed. I know I didn't hear anything about a sidewalk going from the front door to Washington Avenue, which is a considerable distance. I did get a chance to look at the drawing, and I'm a little confused because there is no, like a lot of things weren't taken into consideration, because I mean, I work for a developer that has to do the same thing. And, why hasn't there been any consideration in, having, because it's all about access to the building, but yet you park in the back of the building, and you have to go up a non-ADA compliant roadway, which is basically one-way traffic in or out, and having a risk of getting hit by a car, because a lot of people don't wanna wait, for somebody in a wheelchair or whatever to move along. And I think that's more dangerous than the building being made handicap accessible from Washington to the front door. Why wasn't there any consideration going around the side of the building, along the fence line, because if they're parking in the back where you're designated,
Mhm.
how come the sidewalk wasn't done around the side of the building up to the front door? And make that the handicap access, instead of going all the way out to Washington, and then you're into no man's land of non-ADA compliant roadways.
So where are you proposing people would enter the building? On the side of the building?
Well, they park in the back.
Right.
Which, I don't know, does anybody remember, is there a handicap sign on the building? I thought there was at one time.
Handicap
The
sign on
lines
the
may have
building?
faded, but I believe it was by the back door,
No, I didn't see.
because it was painted and then probably faded over time.
Mhm.
It was right near where the little cutout was made for so-called handicap
Mhm.
access through the boiler room. That's where I believe it was originally made.
Mhm.
But if you go to the left of the back of the firehouse, there's a fence
Mhm.
that goes alongside all the way out to Washington. That alleyway there, probably 6 or 8 feet wide, I believe.
So as you face the building from Washington, you're
You're
coming in
gonna
on the
be
right
right.
side.
Right,
Yeah.
because I know the front bushes, we removed a long time ago.
Right. I
Same
think that
side as the
distance-
meeting room you're talking about, in the kitchen.
It would be the, right, side of the
Yeah.
kitchen and the meeting room.
I
Or
understand what
no,
you're saying.
it's the side where the kitchen, the bathrooms, and the fire chief's office.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, going around the
meeting room is
sidewalk.
more
Yeah.
towards the middle.
yeah.
So you're suggesting wrap that sidewalk around the side of the
Well, I
building?
mean, that's the whole point, is to get people from the back parking lot where they park to the front.
I understand. But you're still bringing it around to this front door where the meeting room is.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Because I know they wanted to make the front door level with a sidewalk so a wheelchair could get into the building. And also, even if you were to route it into the driveway of the front, I mean, they do the, it's a zigzag pattern, going out, down, and around, and with railings, which is less concrete, less work, and you're still getting someone, to pavement in the driveway. Yes, it may be understandable that edge of the driveway is a little bit of an incline, but it's probably less of an incline there than it is the driveway where you're telling people they park in the back and drive up.
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, 'cause I
somebody comes
know-
around with a wheelchair, you're not gonna see them.
Right, especially people coming in, they don't slow down.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes around that bend, they're gonna have a head-on collision. And there's no lighting over there, I don't know if anybody's checked, but the lighting up there's terrible. On the side of the building, there is none.
But let me answer your question about bringing it around the side of the building. I think that would be a longer run sidewalk, so for one thing, the cost would go up. But you're right, it does eliminate someone coming up the driveway with a wheelchair.
Well, the cost might go up, but it would be safer for the person.
Right.
They're not gonna get hit
Right,
by
but
the
you're not
car.
doing the driveway.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
How long do we have on the
Safety.
grant?
Well, again, if the council is gonna pursue a totally different design, I would have to contact community development. So I would have to revise plans and specs, go out to bid, and make sure that doesn't jeopardize the $9,500 in funding.
Can you have
Because
that by
they
the
want
next
this
meeting?
constructed this year.
Can you have that by the next meeting?
An answer to that question? Yes.
Okay.
And the only other thing I wanted to ask was, because it doesn't show clearly in the drawing, the ramp you got going out the front door, there is a railing there, but I don't see a step off to the side for the people who are non-handicapped. Because to go down, what's gonna happen, you're gonna have kids come there, they're not gonna go around, they're gonna go through the railing, cause that's how kids are, and they could get hurt, because there's no step for people to walk up. And it's probably only 1 or 2 steps to go to the front door.
But you're discussing steps down to the asphalt driveway itself?
Right, when you come out of the door, you make the right.
Right.
Which is what they basically do now.
Right, there's 2 steps there now.
But on the drawing, I didn't see the step there.
Right, I eliminated the steps, because if I have steps that come up towards that door, I don't know if I can do that and still get the ADA compliant ramp right into that door. I would have to take a close look at that. It's possible, but at 16 inches, you're talking
Well, even if
3
the
steps.
steps were to come away, I think there's enough room between the main door and the front door.
Yeah, I understand, I see what you're
Because I
saying.
know you wanna have room for a wheelchair to come out and
Right.
not have to fall off into a
Yeah,
step.
right now, it's just an elevated sidewalk that goes right into that door at 2%.
Right.
And it's 5 feet wide.
But what I'm thinking about is the kids that come there for parties, they're gonna be like, oh, we gotta go to the front door, yeah, you gotta walk around, they're not gonna walk around, they're gonna go swinging across that railing.
And how far is the drop in the back again? Is there one step coming out of the kitchen or whatever?
Well, it's not, yeah, it's not really stamped,
Not really stamped.
I believe there's a concrete ramp there now, but it's like a,
Yeah.
it's like a one-on-one
It's a
slope,
pitch,
it's a
yeah.
slope, and if
It's
I
a
were to bring a
slope.
ramp out of 2%, I would have to extend that ramp literally across that parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to raise the entire parking lot, in order to get a ramp for it. And, you know, now you're talking removing an entire parking lot and new curbing.
Well, how long would the ramp be? Like
Well, the
2
ramp,
meters
the
maybe?
length of the ramp is a function of the grade.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you go up there and look, from the pavement of the parking lot to where you walk in the building, some of these, the vertical difference in grade is 8, 10, 12 inches.
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't realize that.
Really steep.
Yeah,
The
okay.
whole parking lot would have to come up.
Right. I'd like to close this portion of the meeting to the public.
So motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that you look into what he was saying and, you know, get back to us next month.
About wrapping the sidewalk around the right
Yeah,
side of the building.
I think it would be safer, you know, and I know it would be safer,
Yes.
I think. And, about the grant, see if we
Yeah.
can, you know, maybe reapply or what the timetable.
Well, the question is for them is if I redesign this, will they hold those grant monies for Victory Gardens if by chance it pushes the actual construction in 2001?
Yeah.
And the first thing I have to do is go up there and measure how much additional sidewalk is involved in this. Because now it's a longer run, so it's gonna cost more money.
Well, it's just concrete.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But we'll have less of this retaining wall and railing, so that will help to offset that, so.
Yeah.
Second?
I will
Okay, you
reach
have a
out-
motion?
First of all, I get the dollar amount,
Right.
square in my head, and then I will reach out to the development the next day or two.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Roll call.
What's the motion?
How do we vote?
The table is until,
That way I'm looking to what he's gonna look into.
It's going around from the back.
okay, so we're tabling this issue.
Right, well, that's me, right.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Cheatham?
Yes.
Councilman Glass?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hedgepath?
Yes.
Councilwoman White? Yes. Councilwoman Garcia Montes?
Yes.
See you next.
Thank you, Leon.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Leon.
Leon, we were supposed to do quotes for town hall flooring, we never got any quotes in.
You get any quotes?
No,
Okay.
so I wanted
I
to
will do
know
some
that.
more research, send them out again, and, expand my list to, contractors.
Okay,
What's going on with town hall flooring?
the one that we talked about at one of our meetings, when I said I wanted to get things done, that had to be done, cause it's all cracking,
The tile is coming.
tiles are coming
Certain
up.
portions are into it,
So it's this hallway here, it's not going back, it's just this one here where all the traffic is. Mhm.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.
I'd like a motion to go back into the regular order of business.
So motion to go back to regular order of business.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence?
At the last meeting, Councilman Lorenzo, had said something about the grease over at the mini mall. Jamie did go out, he took care of everything, and it was cleaned up within 2 days. There's broken glass out there,
Yeah.
I think that was it. Also at the last meeting, Councilwoman, Garcia Montes asked if we could send a letter out to the people that were gonna be affected by Jersey Central coming in and cutting trees, that went out. And I gave everybody a copy of the, from Tom Leach regarding the puppy mill ordinance. And I think that was it, that's all for,
For the other emails.
correspondence, I did have something to thank you for.
That's it?
I don't know if this comes under correspondence, but there's a sign out there, they're gonna start milling tomorrow on South Salem Street.
Yeah, it's not on the correspondence, we didn't get anything.
Well-
I guess they just put the sign up, right?
Yeah. Just mentioning it.
And then Debbie, by the firehouse, how long is that gonna take them to be digging up that street there?
I think they should have it done tomorrow.
So the kids on the bus, they don't go to that bus stop?
They can go, they're just rerouting traffic,
Oh.
so they'll still pick them up.
They pick them up, but dropping them off is another story.
Well,
So,
yeah,
I say
they'll,
it was 15 minutes late today.
Oh,
So they have to, I don't know what route they're taking, but, cause it was closed from Washington and Washington today. So even when we tried to come down here today, it was still closed,
Did they, but they'll come up through Roosevelt.
maybe.
Yeah, that's how they should've, they were supposed to have signs up to direct them how to come up to Roosevelt.
thank you.
Motion to accept correspondence?
A motion to accept correspondence then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vouchers, everybody get a chance to look at the voucher list? If nobody has any question on any line items, I'd like a motion to pay the bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Roll call?
Councilwoman Cheatham? Yes. Councilman Glass?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hedgepath?
Yes.
Councilwoman White? Yes. Councilwoman Garcia Montes?
Yes.
Okay, no department reports.
Yes.
No committee reports. Okay, new business. Okay, you just asked Leon for that. Okay, resolution for liquor license.
I gave everybody a copy of those. There's one here for the show place and also one for Lakeland Liquors. And I believe if you're gonna do the motions on it, you have to do it separately. So the first one would be for South Salem Inc. trading as the show place.
Okay, I'd like a motion.
Somebody's got to make a motion. Motion. Legally, we have to do it, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, have to do
I
it.
don't want your 15-minute speech again. That's going back a long time. Yeah, legally, apparently, since they met all the obligations, we have to go through them. Whether you like it or not. So motion.
Second.
But you don't have to give them a liquor license if, they don't qualify. Like,
We be notified by the state that they do.
we didn't know that they were closed down last time, whether they lost their liquor license. And we're not even ever told that when there's an infraction, if they can't sell liquor there.
Well, you should be notified by the state.
But I'm saying, we don't have to vote yes for them.
No, if you don't wanna vote yes, you don't have to.
Yeah, I know that, but he's saying, it has to be done, and he's
Yeah,
saying.
you have the county,
Yeah, we gotta put a
we
vote
have
in,
to,
but
yeah.
they don't have to have their liquor license if they don't.
No, they're right, but we don't have the right to revoke their license.
That's
That's what we would be doing.
Okay, I got a motion, and you need a second?
You got a second.
Okay, roll call?
Councilwoman Cheatham? Yes. Councilman Glass?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hedgepath?
Yes.
Councilwoman White? Yes. Councilwoman Garcia Montes?
And this is just for the show place, right?
Yes.
No.
I need a motion for the license for Lakeland Liquors.
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Can you redo the motion? Councilwoman Cheatham? Yes. Councilman Glass?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hedgepath?
Yes.
Councilwoman White? Yes. Councilwoman Garcia Montes?
Yeah.
Good for another year.
Everybody has a copy of the audit, we just got those today late, so we'll do those next time we have a meeting. Just have to read the comments and recommendations in the back of the book. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, which is not on there because I just got this quote today, in my office, we have, our typewriters are starting to break down. There are certain things that we need the typewriters for. Debbie does her, Ron's reports on that because they're two-part. And also I have state reports that have to get done on it because they're not computerized yet. We had somebody came in and fixed the wheel that was in my typewriter, that was on the voucher list for tonight. But I would like permission to get another typewriter, just so we have it, if ours break down. We've had these since we came back in the building, so that was 2001 when we had the fire. So,
But
and
they're,
they're,
but they're electrical, they're not manual.
oh no, they're electric. They do correcting.
Typewriters are we had to buy some in my office, they're reasonable, we got them in Staples.
They,
For like $100, $150.
oh, well, the one that we're looking at is $550. What kind of typewriter did you get for $150?
What typewriter are you looking for?
Are they manual, like,
Huh?
are they electric?
Yeah, they're electric, but they're lightweight, I mean, I don't know, do you use it a lot, is it
Yeah.
heavy duty? I mean, in my office, we don't use them a lot, so we got
Yeah.
by with. I don't know what to tell you.
But I had the guy come in, he
We can
gave.
buy two, Debbie.
Yeah, right, I could probably buy like 5 or 10
Join the month of
for $100.
Every month.
But, so the price is $550.
What kind is it?
Probably
It
9
has
10.
memory, I know that.
Yes, it does.
You borrow one of Phil's.
No thanks.
She wants to get her work done.
Sometime in the near future.
He says it's in English, electric type, what, does it go, type Spanish in it too?
So we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Let me see the paper clip. Make the motion
Are
for
we
the
talking about one typewriter?
Yes.
English electronic typewriter. For $550. It's on sale, regular price $650.
Any kind of warranty on that?
And the guy that we're getting it from, he's saying that there's not a demand for them anymore, they can't find the parts, but this is a different type that we have in the office now. So he's got the parts for it.
For the new one?
Mm-hmm.
I need a motion.
We have a motion,
Second. Tara seconded.
roll call.
Councilwoman Cheatham?
Yes.
Councilman Glass?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitchcock?
Yes.
Councilwoman White?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garcia Montez?
Yes.
Thank you.
And when will you have it?
As
in there now.
soon as I order it.
Oh, order? Thought he had in the trunk of his car.
No.
Okay, old business, Puppy Mill ordinance, public hearing and adoption.
Yeah, so what you have to do is open it to the public for, well, I have to read it by title only. An ordinance amending section 5-4.1 of revised general ordinances of the Borough of Victory Gardens.
So can I see that?
It's a revised ordinance, right?
Okay, I'd like to open this portion of the meeting to the public on the Puppy Mill ordinance, public hearing.
A motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a seat.
Hi again, Larry Cohen, volunteer, Humane Society of the United States, I live in Fanwood. This is I believe it's my 4th time before you, and I really,
want to see the puppy.
yeah. I really hope that I have presented myself to you as a sincere and honest person. Because reading this letter that Mr. Leach sent to you, I feel is insulting to you. If you've heard anything I've said to you over the past 3 meetings, it's offensive to me. I travel the state as a volunteer. I'm a retired teacher. I have one goal, and that is to educate the public about what's going on and to get councils to protect their citizens and to do what little they can to try and put an end to this horrendous practice. And the way that localities and states have opted to try and do this is by cutting off the supply of these dogs to pet stores in towns and states, and that's all we're asking to do. Mr. Leach he suggests slander on our part. And I have to ask you, you've seen this, I believe I gave this all to you. Would the Humane Society of the United States have published this if they knew that anything in here was false? Of course not. Of course they wouldn't. I have been talking about these violations that these pet stores pet stores breeders have had for 2 years now around the state. Do you think that I would be able to do that if I was saying anything false or I couldn't back it up? The pet stores would have had me in jail by now. And I think it's telling that Mr. Leach would send this letter with full of false accusations and lies and then not even show up to back any of it up. He was in Madison last night when Madison introduced their ordinance and approved the first reading. He was in Dover. They were in Dover a couple of weeks ago when Dover started considering this, but they don't bother to come here. To me, every single town in this state is important in this effort. And I've been to see you 4 times. And I've told you the truth every time I've been here. And I've provided you with documentation. I can provide you with more if you want it. This guy writes a letter, doesn't show up, and wants you to believe any of it that's in here. The most offensive part of this is that he is accusing shelters and rescues of conspiring to create a monopoly to source puppy mill dogs. It is outrageous on its face. I've been involved in 3 shelters and rescues. I traveled to Georgia with a rescue to pick up dogs from high-kill shelters that would otherwise have just been killed and to bring them up here to be adopted. I don't think that that's doing anything to try and gain a monopoly on puppy mills. It's ridiculous and it's offensive. I have a list here, I have a litany of breeders that his clients have used. I can give you their names, I can show you their inspection reports. Brett Bonham, Cordell, Oklahoma, 3 violations of the Animal Welfare Act. Jan Budden, Maurice, Iowa, 5 violations of the Animal Welfare Act. Samuel Beachy, Clark, Missouri, 4 Animal Welfare Act violations. It goes on and on. Sarah Young, the Humane Society puts out a list of the 100 worst breeders in the country. They call it the Horrible 100. 2019 came out today. Sarah Young is used by was used by a lot of stores in New Jersey. She's been on the Horrible 100 3 times. This is not fiction. And because the federal government and the state government are either not doing their job or are conspiring to not allow people to do their job, and we can no longer get these reports, as I've explained to you, they can now hide behind any claims that they want to make. They can say, forget our sins of the past, we're going to deny them, so they must be false, even though we have paperwork to back it up. What we're going to say is now that nobody can do anything about it, now that nobody can research our breeders, now that nobody can find the inspection reports, we're going to say that we're perfect and we're doing great things. And you should trust us, despite our history. It's offensive. It is extremely offensive. And I hope and pray that I've done what little I can to show you that I am sincere and honest in what I'm asking you to do, and that you will maintain your resolve and follow up on your vote from last month and pass this ordinance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
You know, 15 Franklin Road, in reference to this ordinance you want to do for the, I guess it's in regards to, you calling it a puppy mill ordinance or what? What are you actually calling it?
It doesn't have a title.
Yeah, I know, it just says amending section 5-4.1.
Right.
What is that?
5.1 is a list of businesses that are not allowed to operate.
And where is that in our ordinance book? Like
Under
what?
That's in
section,
the zoning, isn't it?
Section of zoning?
yeah, section 5.
Under land use?
No, section -5, if I had the book here, I could tell you. I don't have it.
5-4-1.
Yeah, 5-4.
Because I know we have a prohibited list of businesses like A through Z.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was under zoning. And I know I mentioned this before, but according to state law, it says that any ordinance that's proposed under zoning has to be referred to the planning board, of the town for comment, which is what has been done in the past, under anything involving restricting businesses, like when you did massage parlors. It went to the planning board, they commented, sent it back, and that's under the actual state statute on that. a referral, it's called referral to the planning board. But you haven't done that, have you?
No, I've never done one myself.
But there is,
Bill, does that have to?
it's
have to go to
fine
the
stuff,
planning
is
board
that,
first?
am I wrong?
If
That
I
there's not a
will
statute
challenge
that
you, I
says,
assume you're correct.
I
So
mean,
then what I suggest what we do is we defer it, if we rely upon Mr. Janone's representation, and we'll refer it to the planning board.
And then it'll come back to us
Then
with a
come
vote.
back.
yeah, like you did with massage parlors, you send it over to them, I don't think they really commented on anything, but that was the proper procedure. The other thing I wanted to ask about was, how come under correspondence, the letter from, I guess, Mr. Leach, he sent it to the borough, but it wasn't mentioned in correspondence?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, she mentioned.
I didn't hear you mention
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, she mentioned it.
Maybe you were whispering.
Maybe you weren't listening.
Also, the maximum fine, I know you have a fine of, it's like, what is it, basically start at 100 and it goes to maximum 1,500?
For what?
Under just fines in general, like if you don't specify, cause I know judges normally look and say, well, what is the fine? And then they look under in the beginning of the chapter of what the fee schedule is for fining somebody. Unless you specify in the ordinance what the fine is, they have to go back to whatever the general fine is, which I believe it starts at $100. So if you're gonna do this, why not make this very specific and say $1,000 fine if you get caught? I mean, not that it probably will happen, that you're gonna find somebody doing it, but I guarantee you, nobody's gonna wanna pay $1,000 fine. I mean, that's a good deterrent alone. Now, I wanted to ask you, also, there was an article written, I guess, back in, April 10th of this year in regards to Madison, which was mentioned up here tonight. And I'm just a little curious, and maybe this is something you should hold off on this ordinance, because I have had a chance, because I just found out about this. It says that the borough attorney has been directed by the governing body to review and revise the draft ordinance as required, because they want to reconsider it. For some reason, I guess there must have been a lot of things that came up, and I'm a little, I don't know, maybe not too
You're
shocked.
talking about in Madison?
Right.
Maybe because they already had pet shops
Can I
down there,
finish
we
my
never had a
sentence?
pet
Can I
shop.
finish my sentence?
Go ahead.
I haven't seen their ordinance they proposed, but your ordinance is only one page. Most ordinances I've seen are several pages.
Much larger town.
No, it doesn't matter about the town size. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't wanna see this become a very vague and ambiguous ordinance where it's left to a judge to interpret, not know what direction to go in. You know, like how are you going to say, somebody comes in and says, well, I'm a rescue group. Like, how are you gonna really know? I mean, anybody can come under that guise and say, I'm a rescue group, or maybe the doctor next door says, you know what, we're gonna have puppy adoption day. I mean, that's not his typical business, but it's drawing in customers, and he has a rescue group come in and claims to be a rescue
Well,
group.
that was answered by the gentleman, they have to be, there are registered and approved adoption groups.
I know it's unusual, but if I may be allowed to talk, I can answer your question about Madison.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you about Madison, I'm just saying.
It's not an argument, I can just answer your question.
But what I'm saying is, to this council is, if the borough attorney there is reviewing it, you know, maybe it's something this council needs to look at to see what they're reviewing.
I can
Maybe they
tell
have
you,
questions and
there's no
concerns.
maybe, I can tell you exactly what's happening,
Yeah, but
because
that's-
I provided Madison with the ordinance.
I understand that, I
On
don't
your
wanna argue with
side,
you,
too.
but that's your opinion from the public, I'm asking the borough attorney, since he's the borough attorney representing the borough's interest in this council, that maybe he might wanna look to see what the borough attorney wrote up, or the reason why they're reviewing it.
The reason why they reviewed it was because there was a mistake made, and different members of the council got different versions of the ordinance. We corrected that, and last night, they reintroduced it, and it was passed on first reading.
And how
So
many
they are
pages-
no longer reviewing it, it is heading towards second and final reading in 2 weeks.
And I was saying as of April 10th, the article that was written, that's what I was
But
referring
that's
to.
moot.
But that's what I was referring to, because I don't know any more details.
Okay.
How many pages?
I just gave you
is-
the details.
Wait a minute, how many pages is their ordinance?
1.5.
1.5, ours is less than one.
And the first part is all whereas clauses. Yeah, basically
We'll
the
do that.
ordinance,
Thank you.
gist of
Thank
the
you.
ordinance is one
I'm
paragraph.
just telling you something to think about.
Okay.
I think you should just stop helping him.
Stop.
Cause
Anyone
we're
else on
actually
the
on
public?
his side and he wants to talk.
I'll try to be brief. My name is Leslie Moran.
We're not helping him anymore.
Resident of, Randolph. Can't hear you.
I'm speaking to the mic, please.
You can pull it up to you.
Yeah. Leslie Moran, resident of Randolph. I did send a correspondence to the council. We passed an ordinance, in 2014, I think it was. First of all, I don't think the planning board had anything to do with it, but if that's a state statute, I'm not aware of it. So anyway, that's one issue. Our ordinance was passed before the Pet Purchase Protection Act, which does attempt to regulate these stores. The stores will tell you they're highly regulated, but as you may know, New Jersey has had its troubles enforcing the Pet Purchase Protection Act. And when many stores were closed, Pet Puri at the mall was fined, had many violations, went out of business. And you're probably aware of Just Pups in East Hanover that also, was closed by the health department. So enforcement has been a problem. And I guess my colleague Larry knows so much more detail than I do, although I've been doing this for a couple of years, I know a little. I hope that the council understands the distinction between regulation of the stores, which occurs here in New Jersey at the state level, and of course the sourcing of the puppies, which is supposed to follow the Animal Welfare Act. And there are problems on both ends. Consumer Affairs in New Jersey doesn't get to all the stores, and they don't have the personnel to enforce as well as they would like to. But also, the Animal Welfare Act is kind of weak in the first place, what it allows. It allows the things that Larry has talked to you about, like the wire floors on the cages. The dog spends its entire life in the cage. I'm not talking about USDA compliant. Minimal vet care, horrible dental care, none at all, and a variety of violations occur, no exercise, and it creates a very inhumane environment and something that you would never consider a normal dog. People who adopt these dogs discover that they don't make eye contact, they're afraid of everything, they don't sleep normally. I've seen all kinds of strange things. You wouldn't even want to look at some of them. What the Animal Welfare Act attempts to do, it doesn't succeed in doing, and to make it even worse, the USDA is weak in its efforts at compliance. So, as Larry and many others have said, the best intervention is at the consumer level. Let it, they say it makes no difference, but I assure you, when the whole state of California outlaws pet shops, it makes a difference. Or Cook County in Illinois started with, I guess, Chicago and then Cook County, or the state of Maryland. And you may not know, some people may know Senator Lesniak, former Senator Lesniak. He, of course, wrote legislation for the state of New Jersey, but Governor Christie didn't sign it. So this movement it's happening. It's not going away. We have a different relationship to companion animals, and we're not comfortable. I mean, it's not just us, it's a lot of people. If they had a little more information. And one thing I shared in Madison, this is the last thing I'll say. My husband ran for office, and so he knew people. I think he may know you, Mayor Holman, Tom Moran. And one of his running mates, leave him anonymous, purchased a puppy at Just Pups. And it was Christmas time, and he went to a breeder the way he should, but you can't just short order a puppy. And, he wanted a puppy for his kids, and he wasn't educated. He's a smart guy, but he wasn't educated about this. So sure enough, he purchased the puppy, and Vinny Lasacco made another sale at Christmas time, and it was a puppy, no puppy. Fortunately, that puppy was healthy, but that's not the issue. The issue is humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else from the public? I'd like a motion to close meeting to the public.
Is some motion to close our meeting to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
And I have one
Okay.
thing. Bill, can you check with, that Janone or whatever?
Sure.
And then get, okay, and we could get this,
Everybody agree with that?
What's that?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it
Check
either.
with Madison to see why.
Yeah,
Yeah, the zoning, I'll check the statute.
and then, in the meantime, we'll send this to, planning board.
We're not meeting this month, so
Hmm?
if we are
No,
not
I
meeting.
can meet that following.
No, but I can, I'll talk to Barry, because I believe I did talk to her.
I thought so
and
too.
yeah, and that she said it didn't have to go before then,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll
Alright,
recheck
so we'll
with
know
her.
something by
Make
next
sure,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to or not.
Mhm.
Well, we'll rely upon the lawyer, Mr. Janone.
So, then you wanna table this?
Just table it till the next
Till the
one.
next
Table
meeting?
until next meeting.
And since you've already had your public hearing on, you don't have to have it again.
Mhm.
So we could
Talk
actually
more
adopt
on
it
it
or not do it.
Right.
Right, at the next meeting,
Alright, so
yes.
you need a motion to table this until.
I need a motion to table the ordinance on enforcement law.
So motion to table, revised ordinance 5-4.1 on puppy mill. Next council meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council, I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So motion to adjourn our meeting.
What?
No,
No.
hold it.
Adjourn the
No.
meeting. We're not done yet.
Yeah, we don't put it on.
We're just closing it to the public on.
On the puppy mill,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Okay, your motion to open the meeting to the public,
So motion to open our meeting to the public.
Second.
all in favor?
This fine, Doug, I'm gonna do a little good thing for you. I'm gonna give you the statute number for the referral to the planning board. It's 4055D-64. It's titled Referral to Planning Board. Prior to the hearing on adoption of a zoning ordinance or any amendment thereto, the governing body shall refer any such proposed ordinance or amendment thereto to the planning board. There you go.
What is it, what, give me that side again?
4055, D as in David, -64.
Gotcha.
Anybody on the planning board should know that.
You used to be on the planning board.
Yeah, that's why I know that.
No, you didn't, you have a look at it.
Yeah, I did, cause I asked you last meeting, you said Barry said you
Get
don't
to the
look
point.
refer to the planning board. Anyway, I wanted to ask about, the planning board approved the doggy daycare, which still hasn't been opened up yet. But do we have any regulations regarding that? Because, I mean, they're a for-profit agency, but I'm sure that maybe someday down the road, they may have like pet adoption laws.
No, if this gets passed, they won't.
Well, I mean, you know, that was another thing I should have asked about, because it says animal care facility is defined by animal control or animal shelter maintained under contract with any state, county. Not a lot of these places are, you know, that I know of, are under contract with county, state, or local places. They're, you know, basically nonprofit organizations that are legitimate companies, but they're not under contract with anybody.
Right.
So that's what I'm a little confused about. It says here they have to be under contract with a state, local, or municipal agency. With any state, county, or municipality.
Well, this thing going before the planning board is, I'm not on planning board. so-
No, but I'm saying, that's what you have in your ordinance, that, you know, an animal care facility is
Can I see
defined.
the statute again?
I don't wanna dwell on that too much, cause it's gonna take all my time up. But I just wanted to raise that issue because you have no regulations on the care of dogs at a doggy daycare, do you? Cause I looked for a land use and I didn't see anything. Like how much
No, there
exercise,
isn't.
huh?
I don't think there is anything in there.
Okay, but maybe, don't you think that should be something to think about? Because I don't like the idea that they said the dogs are only going outside for 10 or 15 minutes. 2 or 3 times a day, and that's it.
Well, they changed that, Jim, you remember that?
Yeah, I know,
Because you
but-
brought it up.
Right, but I
Or
still,
Chris brought it up about the 10
but he
minutes.
didn't seem like he was gonna bend on that too much. But what I'm saying is, you know, maybe something the council should, that you have the opportunity to look into maybe passing regulations regarding something like that, since we do have one coming here. Because there's a lot of things that are in our land use or general ordinance about the care of an operation of a facility like that. You know? Just something to think about. And you brought up this issue about the typewriter. I don't know where you're buying a typewriter for $500 or $600. They're online for $180.
So, well, all right,
Where are you buying this from? Don't tell me that this company that you spent,
Still got this for 110.
yeah.
you spent, at Rolf's office
Yes.
machine, that's where you buying it? They're like a small-time company.
There's not very many big time
The
companies
markup on
anymore.
that is gonna be astronomical. We have a state contract with Staples, how come we're not buying it from there?
Because you get a typewriter like Phil has.
There's nothing wrong with my typewriter.
No, you can't buy the
borrow it,
manual
live it,
typewriters
Joyce.
no more.
He did.
Well, he's, never mind. But what I'm saying is you have a state contract with Staples, they have to sell it at reduced cost.
Yeah, but they don't have anything good over there.
I'm sure they do, the state buys them.
Well, like I said,
I mean, we're buying it from a local guy that's making a huge markup, he's probably got a 40% markup.
I already got approval,
Yeah, well, maybe they can rethink it.
maybe not.
And, Ron's report, you said had to be typed up on a typewriter?
That's what Debbie does with them.
Yeah, but I've done,
Because they're
wait,
too far, I think.
I've done violations from property maintenance for properties. And you get one page, and they're run off of right out of word processing software.
Well, hers are not one page.
Well, that's why,
Hers are three.
but we're not required to have it on a carbon-less duplicate or triplicate, I believe in that, right? We're not required by state to have that, right?
I don't know if you're required by state with anything.
No, you're not, because
Property
because
maintenance.
every other town, they only have one form, and it's pre-printed signature by the code enforcement, and all they do is print them out.
Well, we don't pre-print,
I think we're
because he
wasting
signs
money on
everything that
stuff.
goes out.
We're wasting money on that kind of stuff. And maybe
Well,
you gotta learn to start typing up the minutes on a computer.
Thank you.
It's not gonna do me any good, Jim, as far
Thank
as
you,
my
Jim.
state reports go.
Well, that's only once in a blue moon.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
You don't know as much as you do,
And
Debbie.
anyone else from the public? I'd like the motion to close the meeting to the
So
public.
motion to close our meeting to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, I'd like the motion to close, to adjourn the meeting.
So motion to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we're at pet store.
Well,
Bonnie, by the way,
I'm working on the, some of the,
it's a blessing.
Talking about this one.
some of the